Good, how are you?
We don't know whose iPad that is.
My right shoulder replaced twice, and it doesn't work very well
Oh
anymore.
my.
Didn't quite get through the second video of the meet. This is the second meeting last night.
You never know.
Oh, it might be Chris.
Not original.
Got through about an hour of it tonight.
6 knee surgeries, 6 shoulder surgeries, 3 elbow surgeries. I'm past that.
Perhaps the chair is going to be this one.
You've had surgery just had
Like an
kids.
old horse. Been rode hard and put away wet too many times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I even brought my water in case I hydrate.
Just tell me what you want to do.
Well, it's under department action item right now.
All right, where do you want it? You want it?
Are we allowed? I mean, you know, you've been on the board of commissioners.
Yeah, I can move it. I can move it to special order of business.
So it'd be after consent stuff?
Because that's what pretty much everybody's
That's
here
why
for
they're here
anyway.
for. So where's special order,
Time is
where's
of the
special order
essence.
of business at?
Well, the thing about it is,
Number 7 on our page.
Number 7. Okay, yeah, so we're gonna do Cast Road right there then.
that's really is all the key.
Right?
Yes.
Got number 7.
I'm going to make the motion. Conversation, so go ahead.
Okay.
Pretty much in place, I believe, for the casserole.
Or do we wait for Dan?
Grant money is paid for that.
What's this from?
$3 million?
No, why don't you invite?
What else is paid for?
But you know, there's a lot of people want to make public comment.
Yep.
When do they do that? After?
There's 2 different sessions for public comment.
Yeah, but you can
Yeah,
open public
yeah, that's
comment
typically
first.
how it is.
Okay.
Chris McCarthy. Oh, no, this one's to me.
You're welcome to speak, but we're going to open up public comment
For this,
during that item.
okay, but we're gonna have discussion first.
If my,
Okay, we've got about 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen.
and my iPad is sitting here percolating.
The alignment of casserole
Yeah, I'm ready.
Come on.
Mine's,
in place.
That's not a bad
I
idea.
think I can.
That was the plan.
No, that's good to know. Well, hurry.
Yeah, there's
Should I send back
a
a
whole packet.
respond to Nick McCarthy and say, quit
All
yelling?
right, I'm going to
Maybe this is
call this meeting to order. This is Traverse City, United States of America, and it's the January 21st meeting of Ways and Means Committee of the Whole. We'll start by saying pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we will have roll call, please, Bonnie.
Commissioner Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer,
Here.
Kropa,
here.
Johnson,
Here.
Crawford,
Here.
Klaus,
Here.
Lathrop.
Yes. Before we go on to approval of minutes, I have to make an important announcement. This is a historic event. This is the first time I've ever chaired a board meeting. So it's going to be obvious that I don't know what I'm doing. But I promise you, every other board meeting I chair for the next 2 years will seem the same way. So we're going on now to approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the December 17th regular session meeting minutes of the Ways and Means Committee.
Motion by Wheelock, is there a
Support.
second?
Support.
Is that Max Bauer? Second.
No, that was Commissioner Kropa.
Oh, Kropa.
I'm still writing.
I can't tell you girls apart. So, okay, it's Commissioner Kropa. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries. The next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, deletions?
Public comment.
Public comment.
Oh, that's right, public comment. Bonnie?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. Since we have such a large crowd here, I have brought public comment cards, and I set them on the podium. It's really hard to know how to spell your names. So when you go up there and state your name and address, please write your name on the card and just pass that to me when you're done so that I can get your name recorded in the minutes correctly. Thank you.
And I want to make sure that you understand, especially about the Cass Road Bridge thing, we're going to have, when we discuss that, we're going to have some discussion on the board, open it up to public comment, then and then more board discussion. So if you're here for the Cass Road thing, and you might be, you might want to choose that time to make it. But you can make a public comment every time. We've got one in the beginning, anytime during, and one at the end. So, okay, anybody want to make a public comment at this time? Raise your hand. Okay.
No, I know you.
Ross Richardson, 873 Washington Street in Traverse City, also Traverse City Commissioner. I would urge you to tread very softly in considering rejecting a $3 million grant, or rather removing yourselves from the process of replacing this bridge over on Cass Road over the Boardman River. Connectivity is a real problem in our whole region here, obviously because of our geography, because of all the water, the bays, the lakes, etc. It doesn't really have anything to do with the Hammond-Hartman Bridge. If you all want to, take a shot at the Hammond-Hartman Bridge again, and I'm sure there are people who do, then so be it. But I think you need to think about how slowly government moves. It was 6 years ago, I believe this month, that this board voted to remove the dams. And obviously, we've removed one so far, but that's not even the 2 that the county owns. This grant, I believe, was approved, because I was on TC Talus at the time, was approved, I believe, almost four to 5 years ago. And so design has been going forward, and we're actually at the point where maybe if, we do things right, we'll actually get the dam removed and the bridge replaced in the next year or 2. If you say, we don't need that bridge, and we'll just do Hammond-Hartman instead, it could be literally decades before that happens, before you actually get approval, find the money, and build the darn thing. So try not to screw up the transportation system any more than it already is. And I also, by the way, see a certain dichotomy on your own board in the fact that, at least according to the newspaper this morning, one commissioner was stating that it's a bridge to nowhere, and another commissioner was stating that she was concerned of the extra traffic it would bring to the west side of Traverse City. So, again, there's some sort of disconnect there. Please be careful and, let this bridge project go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Anybody else?
I'll speak now. Jim Carruthers, 218 West 11th Street, City Commissioner and Traverse City Talus Chairperson. I come before you this evening to respectfully ask your continued support for the Cass Road Bridge Replacement Project. This bridge replacement is critical to Traverse City, as it is one of 4 city river crossings, 2 of which are in downtown Traverse City. Blocking this project would increase traffic in Traverse City for years to come because no funding is currently earmarked for building a Hartman-Hammond Bridge, and easily we would be looking at 7 to 10 years start time before construction could begin on a project of this magnitude, if supported by our community. Our regional community has spent close to 10 years planning for this current bridge plan. Through the Grand Vision process, $1.3 million was spent creating the plan, bringing tens of thousands of citizens together, where over 70% of public input supported improvements to our existing infrastructure system over new construction projects. By not supporting the Cass Road Bridge replacement, you would be forfeiting a $3 million state critical bridge grant earmarked for this bridge development. These funds are not transferable and have been supported by past county commissions and the road commission. It would be short-sighted to give these funds up without guarantees of other funding opportunities. TC Talos did its job here. All stakeholders worked together to produce a workable and measured transportation plan that was data-driven. This is not an either-or process. The Cass Bridge replacement is sorely needed, as it has been rated functionally obsolete and dangerous and would be a burden for TCAPS and the east-west mobility of our region. Talos recently completed the required 2035 Regional Long-Range Transportation Plan, identifying key east-west routes supported by transportation modeling data. However, funding for many of these routes exceeds anticipated revenues under present legislation, and increased incremental federal and state special appropriations grants and local funding is needed to further any of these projects. Forfeiting the $3 million critical bridge grant would be short-sighted, considering estimates for the construction of a Hartman-Hammond Bridge have exceeded $30 million at this point, nothing to shake a stick at, and for which no commitment from the state or federal government would guarantee funding at this time. I urge you to support the current transportation plan and Cass Road Bridge replacement that has been previously backed by the Grand Vision process, our citizens, TC Talos Planning, and past County Commission and Road Commissioners' support. Please do not cut off your nose to spite your face here. We need this bridge while we spend the next 10 or so years planning for further east-west mobility projects as our community grows and funding allows. Please think long and hard before you cut this vital river crossing. Thank you for consideration and your service to our community.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Becky Ewing, 531 Randolph Street. I'm also the Associate Director of Rotary Charities, and I'm here to comment on Rotary Charities' behalf. In 2008, citizens told us during the Grand Vision process that repairing and improving existing roads should be the top priority for investing our public funds. Since that time, the Cass Road Bridge has been identified as one of the existing structures that needs significant improvement. MDOT agreed and provided funding for a major portion of the bridge project. The timing of the bridge replacement in conjunction with the removal of the Boardman Dam ensures the project will be done in a cost-effective manner. Removal of the dam will be done in such a way as to restore habitat and create safe passage of wildlife and pedestrians. Last year, Rotary Charities supported these aspects of the project with funding to ensure that in addition to transportation and safety issues, environmental and recreational considerations were integrated into the design and subsequent construction of the river crossing. So I urge you to continue down the path that's been well established here to reconstruct the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
There we go.
Hi. Fred Lorte, 6395 Five Lake Road in Five Lake, Michigan. I've been working in,
Could you pull the mic a little closer to your mouth? Yeah. Thank you very much.
I've been working in planning and land use for a while, and even though I've been a bit out of the loop in the last few years, it was my understanding that the Hartman-Hammond Bridge project had been found to be detrimental to the area, that we would favor automobile-driven growth compared to a more balanced approach that has been determined by the Grand Vision to be what the public wanted. And I think that making traffic worse in order to artificially create the argument that we need the Hartman Bridge again is not the right way to proceed. I'm in favor of replacing the Cass Bridge the way, as was agreed to, and not trying to revive a big automobile-driven transportation project that has been already determined to be detrimental to the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Card for me. Thanks.
Why don't you go ahead and do that at the back desk so that we can bring someone else up?
Sure.
Thank you very much, though. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Marvin Radke, 2300 East M113, Kingsley, Michigan. I am the Township Administrator for Paradise Township, and I'm here on behalf of Township Board of Trustee members. They asked if I would bring in some questions. First of all, Paradise Township has taken position that the Cass Road Bridge needs to be constructed or reconstructed for a couple of reasons. It can be completed in a rather short amount of time in comparison to the Hammond-Hartman Bridge, apparently for a lot less money. There were some questions that were asked, and which I'm going to relay to the commissioners. What, if any, ramifications would there be in returning the grant of $3.08 million in change? On some of the grants, if you return it, or if it's not used, there's a red mark put on you. And if you apply for a grant again, that plays against you. Whether this is the case or not, I don't know. These are just questions that are being asked. Has a cost analysis been done and submitted to the commissioners from TCAPS, Beta, or any other public or semi-public agencies for the cost of additional fuel and time? Has emergency services weighed in on whether or not that this closure would impact travel time from T-Bays field where someone, breaks a leg or something of that nature, or some other catastrophic event happens to individuals? What is the extended time of going to Munson if that Cass Bridge was taken out? Reversing the county's position of supporting the Cass Road Bridge is based upon what new information? What would substantially change the current travel of, or the goals, or the position that the county took? What has changed? It is understood that the proposed replacement bridge would not be considered a bridge to everywhere, but it's also a bridge, it's not a bridge to nowhere. It is a bridge to the economy for the locals that utilize it, from the west side to the east side, from the east side to the west side. This bridge is not designed to serve as an east-west transportation relief for the carrying capacity of South Airport Road, which we all know is over capacity. This is, how did they put it, or to reduce traffic along the bay or through the city of Traverse City, as just getting from point A to point B on either side, not stopping and shopping. This will, if this bridge is done, it will buy some time for the actual east-west corridor route that is referred to as the Hartman-Hammond Bridge, for pennies on the dollar for the time constraints of the construction of the Hartman-Hammond Bridge, and with the rating of the bridge being so low.
Thank you very much. Nice job. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Okay. Then, now we go to the approval of agenda. Is that right, Sonny? Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I would move, since we seem to have a lot of people here interested in the Hammond-Hartman Cass Road Bridge discussion, I would move that we put the Cass Road Bridge information and presentation under special orders of business and move it up on our agenda.
That'd be item 7. Do we need to make a motion on that and pass it to do that?
Yes, that was
Okay.
my motion.
That's your motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Crawford. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion. Who's opposed? Sonny.
You
Do we,
have to
do we,
do a
do we
roll
need to take a roll call, or can you just put?
Yeah, do a roll.
We do. Okay, let's do a roll call then.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Cropa,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Wheelock,
No.
Lathrop.
Yes. Motion passes. All right. Then we've got the consent calendar. I guess that's
No.
starring you, Bonnie.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move to approve the agenda as amended.
Oh, okay. That'd be right.
Support.
Is there support to that? Okay, all those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. All right. Glad you guys are all here. Now we can go to the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file, none. B, approval. Number 1, board and committee appointments. Number 2, 2015 meeting schedule. Number 3, commissioner assignments and appointments.
Okay, is there anything on the consent calendar that a board member would like to have removed? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask to pull the commissioner assignments and appointments, please.
Commission assignments and appointments, that would be B3.
B3.
And where will we put it? Under
Under the agenda item that says items removed from the
agenda
consent
item?
calendar.
Okay, B3. Okay, anything else? Okay, can I have a motion then to,
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item B3.
is there a second?
Support.
Support by Commissioner Klaus. Commissioner Wheelock made the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Go ahead.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Oh, yeah, thank you. Is there anyone in the public that wants an item pulled from the consent calendar? I'm supposed to do that. Okay. All righty. Then we go to special order of business, which would be
Cass Road Bridge.
Cass Road Bridge. So let's start this with board discussion, and then we're going to have some people come up and talk, and then we're going to have some comment, and bring it back to board. So let's start with board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I put in our packet Garfield Township resolutions, and I would appreciate it if Supervisor Korn would step up and speak to those.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to start it. Come on up, Chuck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your commission this evening.
With the mic up.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
That better?
I want to hear your beautiful voice.
Thank you again. 6 years ago, I was a used car salesman stepping into the supervisor's position at Garfield Township.
Maybe it's not on.
And I found I own 25% of a septic plant. And it was designed and created in a committee, and then it was flipped over to the Board of Public Works, who approved it, and then finally to the County Commission, who approved it and agreed to bond for it. And a little while later, they came back for some more money because their original estimate was low. The revenues came in at half of what were projected. The costs were twice what were projected. It was a major headache that lasted for years and years and years. Doug Mansfield from Union Township was on the BPW at that time and asked over and over again, Are you sure this is what you want to do? It doesn't make sense. And to this day, he will still tell you the same story if you get a chance to talk to him. Go forward a few years, I'm at an IT meeting, I'm at a county commission meeting, I'm at a road commission meeting, and I'm saying, we don't need a bridge at Cass Road. And just got shrugged off. And I appreciate that. Everybody has the option to do that. Back in 2013, this board, or its predecessor, however you want to look at it, agreed to fund the non-grant expenses on the bridge. Marvin was asking about new information that's come forward since then. And I do have the recordings of the actual videos. If you want to hear the voices, I'll be glad to. If you have any questions about what I'm saying, if you doubt that I'm being authentic, I'd be happy to play it for you. This board was told that there was a $3 million state grant which would cover the majority of the 35% U.S. Army Corps of Engineers local match. So with a $10 million project, we're looking at trying to raise $3.5 million. This $3 million justified the whole project because then they wouldn't have to fundraise for it. And a little while later, you were told the number to keep in mind is $150,000. And again, I have it on a recording. Ms. Balke gave us that information. The number to keep in mind is $150,000. And there'll be some costs for engineering and little things, but the only number that was spoken was $150,000. Today, we're at least 3 times that. Last part was that the chairman of the IT was asked the question by then Chair Lemkool, would this project be easier to do without the bridge? And he said, yes, it would be easier. He said, there would also be environmental benefits to not doing the bridge, but that's up to you. Last week, Target Corporation announced plans to close 133 stores in Canada. They'd lost money since they started this project in 2011. They just said, write it off, we're pulling out. At the same time, it was pointed out that NASA's going to finish a $350 million rocket engine test stand down in Mississippi. That is to test the rocket for a project that was canceled in 2010. The project was canceled in 2010. The senator from Mississippi made sure the project got built because once you get the money, you got to spend it. You have an opportunity every once in a while to act more like a business and less like Congress. This is an opportunity. The other interesting thing from a couple years ago was we needed to do this right away and sign a contract because the timetable was coming up so fast. We were already behind, and we have to do this next year and this next year after that. Currently, it looks like the dam will come out in 2017. This is, again, first thing you learn in car salesman school. Create a sense of urgency. Get them to sign the papers. Yep. Garfield and East Bay Township have both adopted access management regulations to limit the number of driveways and roads on a new east-west corridor, which would be composed of Hartman and Hammond. And I've given everyone a map. Pass those around and share them. There are a lot of people who don't understand what our road system looks like. If you live in the Interlaken or Benzie areas and you come each morning, you don't want to drive all the way down to 31 and then cross on South Airport because it's a terrible mess. So you take Keystone Road, which is now a terrible mess. And what makes it even more fun is when the car is coming off of Cass Road, the light turns red, people back up for miles. It's not a part of a functioning, efficient system. The Hartman-Hammond route would give those same people a reason to drive all the way down and then take Hartman-Hammond to get across to wherever they want to go in the area where they work. 40% of Leelanau County's workforce works in this area. Kalkaska, Benzie, Antrim, similar numbers. People from all over the area come in here to work, go home in the evening. We have the threat of a lawsuit mentioned tonight. There were no lawsuits in 2002, 3, and 4 when this was discussed last time. There were only threats. And the idea that this may take decades to do, I'll let that stand on its own. It should happen much quicker than that. I do believe the state wants the highways out of downtown Traverse City. Having a U.S. highway and a state highway with a driveway every 100 feet on Front Street doesn't make sense. It just plain doesn't make sense. I would say the bulldozer and culvert bridge that was planned in 2003 by the Road Commission that they wouldn't back off of was certainly a major part of the problem. We're not talking about a couple hundred tons of dirt being dumped into the river valley this time. We're talking about a span bridge, something very similar to what the IT group is proposing at Cass Road. Something that would allow enough space for people, animals, bike, canoeists, and everybody else to get under. The Great Lakes are the largest surface freshwater system on Earth. We are blessed and have a responsibility because we live in the Great Lakes Basin. We are stewards of our environment. The river would be best served and least impacted by one bridge. TC Talus Board voted overwhelmingly 11-1 to put the Hartman-Hammond Bridge in our master plan. The Grand Traverse County Road Commission has the bridge in its master plan. Garfield Township has the bridge in its master plan. I have received resolutions from Fife Lake, Acme Township, Blair Township, East Bay Township, and of course Garfield. My intent would be to get each township and village in the county to at least draft a resolution of support for the Hartman-Hammond. I've had 2 townships so far that I've talked to who would not draft a resolution against the bridge because somebody on their board used it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay. Go ahead.
And this, for anybody, what has been the estimate of the total cost of the Cass Road Bridge?
The Cass Road Bridge? There's almost $3.1 million that is coming from the State Critical Bridge Fund, and somewhere in the neighborhood of $450,000 to $500,000 is the estimate at this point, above and beyond that. But the contract is a blank check.
And
It
that's
just-
but what's the cost to build? Is that what you're considering the cost is to build this bridge? Is the money you've,
Yes.
It's an estimate. It will probably go higher.
Any other?
What do you
Yes.
say, Jim?
Yes, Commissioner Wheelock, go ahead.
Well, to me, this is two separate issues. The Cass Road Bridge is one issue, the Hartman-Hammond Bridge is a separate issue. I don't see them as tied together. I believe one, eventually, I believe both will happen. I've sat here long enough to have been involved in some very public processes. The Grand Vision process was very long, very tedious, but very well involved with the community. They overwhelmingly supported the maintenance and expansion of existing roadways, not new construction. The Boardman River Dams process was probably the most public process anywhere in the United States in regard to the restoration of a natural river basin. And they overwhelmingly, from day one, talked about the replacement of Cass Road as a significant component of that discussion. I don't see where it's got to be an either or. I believe that we're appropriate to move forward with the Cass Road Bridge construction, and then if we choose to have further discussion about a secondary corridor or an expanded corridor through Hartman-Hammond, we go back and we do that over again. We've been through that before. You know, it wasn't pretty. I recently had an opportunity to go from Mobile, Alabama to Phoenix, Arizona, and drove over literally hundreds of miles of bridges that travel through the Mississippi and Louisiana bayou. You know, natural habitat that the trees have all handled it, the animals have all handled it, you know, but we overwhelmingly have all kinds of discussions as soon as we talk about, you know, putting a bridge across the Boardman River. We're going to destroy the environmental habitat, you know, but it's done all over the country and all over the world. Bridges go into wetland areas and the habitat and the environment adjusts. But these are two separate issues. You know, the fact that we may eventually end up with two bridges a half a mile apart from each other doesn't bother me a great deal. I personally think we have the plans in place to move forward with the Cass Road Bridge. The Cass Road Bridge can be constructed prior to the dam coming out, I believe. We can have Jim from the Road Commission talk about that here in a few minutes, because it's my understanding that the new bridge will be realigned so as that it will not be exactly where the one-lane ridge goes over the top of the current dam. You know, keep in mind that the dam that we currently have over Cass Road Dam is nothing more than a row of blacktop going over top of a earthen dam with a concrete cap on it. That is not a bridge. It's one layer of asphalt going over top of an earthen dam. You know, there's a big difference between the two. But I believe, unless I've mistaken somewhere, that the new bridge would be the river would be realigned, and the bridge could be constructed in a different location, slightly different location than where the current road crossing is now. And therefore, you know, we can move forward with the construction of the bridge at any point that we're ready to, and the Road Commission's ready to, and the design is finalized. And when the bridge comes out, or the dam comes out, and I'm sure hoping it's in 2016 at the last projection. But we have a $3 million grant that was critical bridge funds that were available. We have a tentative commitment from the Army Corps of Engineers, and we are moving forward with the design of a bridge going over there. Why would we start going backwards now? We've been at least 6 years through this planning process and this public process, going through the whole Boardman Dams study, and literally hundreds and hundreds of hours in meetings, and the consensus from day one was the Cass Road Bridge would be replaced and the dam was coming out.
That was a really long question, but I'll try to answer it. Why would we?
I didn't.
You said, why would we change at this point in time? Okay. I asked if there are any questions. That's how you ended, so I'm assuming you were asking a question.
I wasn't particularly asking this question. I was
Lecturing?
probably.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But there was a question in there, so I'm going to try to answer it. The first time I said the words Hartman-Hammond at a meeting, people turned white and just shut up. The room went dead silent. Because you're not allowed to say that. Say East-West Corridor. Say anything except that. And today, there are still people who know that if they speak their mind and what they truly believe in this issue, it's going to cost them. And they're not here, and they're not speaking. And I am speaking because I won't back down. I am not afraid. And I want to tell you, it's the wrong place to build a bridge. We don't need two bridges. We need to honor our environment and do as little damage as we can. We could restore more of the wetlands in that area if we don't build a bridge there.
Any more questions for Chuck?
Oh, I don't have a question. I do have a comment, but
Okay. Okay, any more questions?
Again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chuck. Nice job. Commissioner Max Bauer.
there is a T.C. Tallis study that shows that if Hammond-Hartman is built, it will take 92% of traffic off of the Cass Road Bridge. The reason I support Hammond-Hartman versus the Cass Road Bridge, well, there's two reasons. One is the Cass Road Bridge is in the Grand Traverse County Natural Education Reserve. It's a beautiful, pristine area, and it's parkland, and I don't think that we need a bridge in the middle of this beautiful area when Hammond-Hartman clearly makes more sense. It makes more sense to me as a city resident because I live in the city. And what happens is people come over that bridge, come down Cass, plug up South Airport. South Airport is way, way over capacity on its traffic, and those cars come then into the neighborhoods. And you all might not think Cass Road is a neighborhood, but Cass Road is a neighborhood with children and driveways. And why wouldn't I want to try to preserve more of a neighborhood on Cass Road? I would. I also happen to live on 8th Street. A lot of that traffic comes in on Division as a result of no bridge between Hammond and Hartman. Comes in on Division, goes down 8th Street, because that's really the straightest east-west connection, and again, plugs up neighborhoods with small children. I have a beautiful family across the street with 3 little ones, you know. These are neighborhoods. There's a better way to handle traffic, and therefore I do support the Hammond-Hartman, and I do not support putting a bridge in the middle of the Natural Education Reserve.
Any other comments from board members? Commissioner Kropa.
Okay. I had to make notes because I've been talking a lot about bridges lately. First of all, when I moved here in the mid-'80s, moved here from Florida, land of bridges, we got a lot of water that we drive over. I thought it was interesting. I lived in a county now with a river and a lake in the middle, and we didn't really seem to talk about it. But it's there. As I grew up, and I owned a business with a fleet of trucks that drives all around our county. Time is money for all of us that own businesses with employees that are paid to drive around. We don't charge by the driving time, we charge by the job. So the quicker my guys can get to the jobs, the better it is for me, the better it is for them. So I started getting involved in the Hartman-Hammond discussion, being a resident of Garfield Township and a business owner, because it just made sense. And unfortunately, a lot of things in government, when they make sense, people don't like to talk about them. I always called Hartman-Hammond the Baltimore. It's like the bridge that shall not be named. You can't talk about it, but it's there, and it's consistently reminding those of us that live in that area. Then I heard about the dam removal process. I was probably one of the biggest supporters of the dam removal process. I think it's great. The idea of restoring the river to its natural state, and the idea that this park can almost be like a central park in the middle of our county, and I really liked it. And subsequently, I was fortunate enough to be appointed chair of Garfield Parks and president of County Parks in the years after the dam removal was decided. And we work hard on those parks commissions. I know you might not hear a lot about them, but we work real hard to create what's called master plans. And the master plan for the NER is gorgeous. According to the Conservation District, when the final dam is removed, we may have up to Class 3 rapids right here in our county. And everybody knows that that's going to positively impact all of us that live here and those that visit. So we worked real hard on these plans and went around and did all these public hearings and did all of this. And for the life of me, I can't remember anybody saying, let's remove all this infrastructure for $10 million and put a bridge in the middle of our park. Don't remember it. That wasn't the idea of it, and it certainly doesn't support our belief that we needed to restore our environment to its original state. So I came here before the Board of Commissioners in June of 2013, the meeting that's been discussed several times, asking them please don't support the Cass Road Bridge. I spoke on behalf of the Parks Commissions that comprise the NER and all the people that have worked so hard to restore our river up till this point. I understood, though, why the Board of Commissioners ultimately voted a different way, because given the information they were at the time, you can make a logical excuse for what they did, and I say excuse because I obviously wanted them to vote another way. They were told that this dam removal process, which is we all support, needed matches. And we were told that the critical bridge grant at the time, the $3 million plus one or however it is grant, would be that match. Well, since then we found out that no, that's not the case. Federal funds don't match federal funds. We were told that we would roughly be looking at $150,000 in taxpayer costs, and now we're looking at almost 3 times that amount. But I understand at the time why they supported what they did. It's called progress and new information, and the traffic studies have been completed. And since then, TC Tallis has completed their study and included the Hartman-Hammond in it for a reason. And with all of this information, I didn't understand why are we still talking about the Cass Road Bridge. They were married for a reason. They're 2 different issues. Traffic infrastructure and restoration of the river. They're 2 different issues. But they got married for the mutual good because one grant could help another. As soon as we found out those grants couldn't help another, they should have been divorced. But instead, for some reason, like a bad marriage that drags on, these 2 continue to be married together when they shouldn't be. And the reason I say they shouldn't be is because it's my money and your money and all of our money. Grants aren't free money. It's a federal grant, it's a state grant, it's taxpayer money. We all write these checks. I was elected to watch over taxpayer funds. And just because it's state or federal funds, I don't support the waste of it. And I think that the Cass Road Bridge is a waste. And yeah, I did call it a bridge to nowhere, because if you get on it, you get dumped off on 2 north-south corridors. It doesn't fix our problems, it actually exacerbates them. So I will support my statement that it's a bridge to nowhere, and I will support the statement that it's the needs of the few versus the needs of the many. I'm looking at a lot of you, and I know that a lot of you are elected, and you know what it's like to sit in these seats and try to do the best. And one of the things I use ethically to weigh it is the needs of the few versus the needs of the many. Cass Road Bridge is 5,500 people a day. Hartman-Hammond would be roughly 44,000 a day. To me, it's a no-brainer. Yes, the one bridge costs more, but when you average it out on what it's going to do for us, it's the best bang for our buck. I look at the government as my own personal checkbook. Would I do this for my business? Would I do this for my family? No way would I write that Cass Road Bridge check. I would say no thanks. So I'm not going to sit here. I was elected to represent the citizens of the Hartman-Hammond District, District 3, and there's no way I'm going to support a waste of their money. I would rather see it all focused on solving our infrastructure problems and stop pretending that grants are free money. On advice of council, I have drafted a motion for tonight that Chris thought would be appropriate to start our discussion. So I will move to ask council to draft a resolution in support of the Hartman-Hammond Bridge and to address the current issues with the development agreement with the Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
Support.
Okay, motion by Kropa, support by Max Bauer. Is there any discussion? Yes, Doctor.
So this motion is specifically to address the Hartman-Hammond?
Would be,
And not Cass Road.
this is a resolution to support Harmon Hammond. The Cass Road portion of it is under Chris's advice, dealt with in the part of the motion that addresses the current development agreement with the Grand Traverse County Road Commission. That is a reference to the Cass Road Bridge. His advice beyond this motion, depending on how the outcome is, would be for a joint meeting with the county board and the road commission to discuss specific issues about the Cass Road Bridge and the current agreement with them.
Any more discussion? Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess before we consider this motion, I would ask to hear from the road commission about exactly where we're at with this Cass Road Bridge situation. Because we've been at this thing a long time, and we're well into it. I know that Jim is here. I'd like to at least hear from the road commission, our transportation arm, as to where we are with the Cass Road Bridge. You know, as I said earlier, I absolutely support the concept of a Hartman Hammond Bridge, but I believe they're two separate issues, and I don't think they have to be tied together. So, Jim, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to hear the road.
Okay, wait, I do want that, but is there any other people who want to make a comment yet? I mean, on this board, before Jim? Okay, thank you, Jim.
Good evening, Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. Where we're at today with the Cass Road Bridge is we've spent about somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 in design cost. The project is about 85% complete as far as design. It's been submitted to the state for approval, or it's a 85% approval. And then once they approve it, it'll come back with comments, and then final design will be done. And then at that point, the plans will be 100% and submitted for approval. And once they approve it, then the state will obligate just short of $3.1 million for the project. Does that answer the question, or?
Jim, if you could, I believe I made comment earlier that it's my understanding that the new bridge will not align with the current dam, so therefore that bridge construction could be started prior to the dam removal.
Yeah, that's correct.
And probably completed before the dam removal.
Yeah, the proposed bridge is going to be located about 400 feet to the west, and the plan is that it would be built in the dry. So basically, we would build a bridge. There would be some excavation, but basically there would be a bridge where there isn't a bridge required. And then as part of the river restoration project, they would come back the following year, and they would actually excavate back to the original river channel, which would be underneath where the bridge is built. And then they would actually they would take those materials and they would fill in the existing channel as part of the dam removal process, and eventually we would construct the road, across that existing channel, or where the existing crossing is now. The way we have it planned is we would actually build the new bridge probably in one construction season, and then we would address the rest of the road the following year. And so there's a chance that we would actually be going across a 2-lane bridge, back onto a 2-lane road, back across a single-lane bridge for, basically through the winter for 1 year.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Jim, how much over capacity is traffic on South Airport?
It runs about 25% over capacity normally. During the summer months, we see it go quite a bit higher than that.
And this is not going to alleviate any of that?
No, we did traffic counts on Cass Road in May of 2013, and we had around 5,500 cars a day over a 3-day period. So, the reality is if we didn't replace the Cass Road Bridge, you're going to dump 5,500 cars somewhere else. They would go to Chum's Corners, they would go to South Airport Road, they might go downtown. 5,500 cars, if you split it up, it's pretty insignificant as far as capacity of South Airport Road. You know, it's way over capacity, so you put a couple thousand more cars on it,
But with
nobody's
the
really gonna notice.
Hammond-Hartman connection, that, according to the traffic studies, that would alleviate traffic on South Airport.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see, Ron, you next, okay?
With the $200,000 to $300,000 that we've spent in design,
Mm-hmm.
did you say that there's about another $100,000 to spend?
No.
Okay,
No, that may have come up earlier. There's about $155,000 match for the $3.1 million grant.
okay. The $200,000 to $300,000 that we've spent for design at this point,
Mm-hmm.
is that it? The bridge is designed?
It's not totally designed, no. It's about 85%.
So there's more cost on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you were to get, I mean, $200,000 to $300,000, that's quite a spread for design work. I mean, are we going to be at $350,000? Or do you have an idea?
Well,
Do we have a quote?
Yeah, we actually have a contract with URS, and the contract is an odd contract. It's I think the county has a contract. We sort of partnered on it, and the contract is, I believe, a $300,000 design contract. So they should be approximately 85% of the way through that budget.
Okay, so if we were to stop this Cass Road Bridge right now,
Mm-hmm.
that's money spent. That's already money spent we won't see back.
That's correct.
Then, with that, I looked at the plans a little bit, just what were online, and like you said, that bridge could be built and then excavate out under the bridge for the changing of the riverbed back to the original. If we were, for as long as it's taken to get to this point on this bridge, what would your educated guess be?
Yep. They're not hearing you, Ron.
What would your educated guess be as to, starting from today, when could we hope to see anything on the Hartman-Hammond? I mean, the Cass Road Bridge seems to be going at glacial speed from when we saw the dam starting being removed. When do you think, if we stopped the Cass Road and focused on the Hartman-Hammond, what's the soonest you think we would see anybody traveling that?
Well, you know, I think it's difficult to say. I mean, the good news is we actually had a grant that was applied for probably 5 years ago for the Cass Road Bridge, and you can see how fast that's moved. I don't believe anybody's applied for a grant, and I don't believe anybody has secured any funds for another crossing at this time.
Okay, well, and that's my point, is that if this doesn't go, we'll see traffic going on South Airport Road, different directions for 10 years?
I mean, I honestly, I think if the world was perfect, you're looking at 5 years. I think realistically, I do think it's probably 10 years.
Yeah.
But again, you know, nobody's approached us with any money or any plans or anything like that.
Right, and I believe the road commission is placed where it's at based on that east-west corridor going in. I mean, that was a wise location there, but we're not moving in that direction yet. And I would like to see it, but I just wouldn't want to see Cass Road abandoned to wait for 10 years to get a bridge going across.
And the other thing I'd say is, because it was mentioned that it was in the long-term transportation plan, you know, there is a plan for, you know, several different options. But, you know, it's a long-range plan. It's you know, it goes out to 2035, you know, not 5 years from now.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Let's see. It'd be you next, Carol, because you haven't spoken.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is basically the Cass Road, I guess, bridge is where it is because that was a good place to put a dam. Correct? That was, at the time, a good place to put a dam that we happen to now drive across. It provided a crossing, but it was a good place for a dam, not necessarily a good place for a bridge. So if the dam was removed, and so goes the road that sits on top of it, 5,500 cars will be dispersed among the other roads. So I just don't see the value in putting a bridge where that is a good spot for a dam, and to put the bridge there simply because people have crossed over there for a long time. It seems like the Hartman-Hammond connection there is a much more logical place for that. It just seems so counter to common sense.
Well,
Just my opinion.
I would agree with you, and honestly, I've been coming up here since I was a kid, and, 10 or 12 years ago, I thought the Hartman-Hammond was a great idea, and I'm not quite sure why people didn't do it back then. But the reality is, we have a grant to replace a crossing that serves a local need. And again, it's not a bypass, it's not gonna be a bypass. But what it is, for us as a road commission, it's an insurance policy. We only have so many crossings. We have Chum's Corners, we have South Airport Road, or people can go downtown. And South Airport Road, for us, is, it's a liability. We have culverts there that, for any reason could fail. I mean, it could just be a flood. And when you shut down traffic on South Airport Road, which is running 25 to 28,000 cars a day, where are they going to go? So again, for us, somebody did the work. Somebody went out and got the grant, and it makes a lot of sense to put it in because it's a crossing for us. If we don't put it in, whether it's 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be limited on crossings.
Anybody else? No. Lisa?
I just have a question on costs, since I know this is probably putting you on the spot, too. The agreement with the road commission was pretty much a blank check. It was costs that were not covered by the grant. And first of all, we deserve to know how our grant money is spent. I'm not sure any of us in this room know how many, spotted owl studies they've funded or things like that, but we funded a lot through grants. But we can ask at least how our money is spent on the funds in lieu of grant. And when we were given the original amount of 150, we now know, as you said, the plans alone have cost about double that, could go over double that. But there's other costs as well. So before people have formed an opinion on the Cass Road Bridge, I think it's right, since the fact that all of us in this room are paying for it, that we should know what we're buying. I know that construction staking came in at about $50,000 additional. I know that there's a powerhouse situation, a removal of a powerhouse. And I also understand that the critical bridge grants only fund touchdown point to touchdown point. But as we all know, we got to make a road that goes up to the touchdown points. What kind of costs are we looking for at that? And I understand that you're, obviously that's really putting you on the spot, but we're looking at additional funding coming out of the county taxpayers that's beyond just the plans that you mentioned.
Well, what we know is there's a match requirement. The last estimate I saw, I think, was under $2.9 million for the bridge, which also includes those touchdown points. So it's not like there's a bunch of road that you have to add to that cost. There is about $300,000 in construction engineering, which includes staking, inspection, material testing, and things like that. That's not covered by the grant. So that is, that's in addition to the $150,000 or $155,000 that's required for match.
So now we're coming closer to $500,000 of money that isn't covered by the grant.
Yeah, right
for the
now
Cass Road Bridge.
it's a little over $450,000.
So that's our county money, along with, and I always like to remember grants is also our money, just in the form of state and federal taxes. So we're looking at about a $4 million Band-Aid to help alleviate about $5,500 worth of cars for roughly 5 years or so until we can get things together for an actual bypass. And I think that that's okay, but I think people should understand what they're purchasing. And that's kind of our job here. I have the right to say no, that I don't support purchasing that, but everybody else has the right to make their choice. But it's nice to hear the numbers, so I appreciate that. We're not construction engineers up here. Most people aren't, so we don't understand what goes into creating a bridge beyond everything else, so thank you.
Any other comments? Sonny?
Jim, I think the one thing that we kind of forget about here a little bit, when we talk about 5,500 cars that currently go across Cass Road Bridge, Cass Road, as it currently goes over top of the Boardman Dam, for all practical purposes, is not a road.
Right.
I believe when the Cass Road Bridge, or if the Cass Road Bridge is constructed and has an adequate two-lane road that's properly maintained and properly constructed, and the bridge is a two-lane road that's properly constructed, you're going to see a whole lot more than 5,500 cars a day. I will pretty much do anything that I can do not to have to go that way, because it's a pain. I'll jog around and do something different, or do South Airport Road and then take, one of the other roads back up to Hammond Road, because it's too much of a hassle dealing with, particularly with loaded trucks or any of that things trying to go down Cass Road. I know the school buses talk about, the fact that they can't drive across the Cass Road Bridge with a busload of children because they're over capacity. So we've got the school bus garage parked right there within a half a mile of the bridge, but they can only use it half the time because they can't go across that bridge if they've got kids in the bus. So, but I think the key thing is when we talk about 5,500 cars that currently go past Cass Road, when Cass Road is reconstructed and the new bridge is constructed, we're going to see a significant change in that amount of traffic, and I believe it will alleviate some of the traffic off South Airport Road when it's constructed.
Yeah, one of the traffic studies that I saw where they did a trip generation, they were predicting about 14,000 cars a day across this two-lane bridge, this new two-lane bridge.
Now, that's 10,000 cars off South Airport Road.
From somewhere.
Okay, Doctor?
So what, if Cass Road continues on, what's your best guess is when the first car would cross that? 2017, you think? 2016?
Well, that's a good question. We have a little issue called the long-eared bat. And and there's a requirement that we can only cut trees between November and the end of April. And the way things are going, we probably wouldn't have obligation. We wouldn't be able to start construction. Our original intent this year was to start construction probably in May. But that's outside of the tree cutting period that we can do. So I think right now we're looking at finishing up final design, getting it obligated, and then actually having to wait. Next winter they could remove trees, but then they would probably start construction of the bridge itself in 2016.
And do you foresee that there's going to be a point coming up soon where we're not going to be able to put cars on Cass Road currently with the deterioration of it right now?
Yeah, it's currently rated a 3, out of 100. And typically when they get down to, 2 or 3, it's time to close it down. So, we're living on borrowed time.
One of my concerns with it is safety at this point. I mean, if it's getting that low, are we going to wait until somebody goes through it?
Well, no.
Or how often are you inspecting it now, I guess?
Yeah, we inspect it annually. We inspect it annually, and so this spring we'll be inspecting it again. And we have a consultant, a bridge consultant, that comes out and inspects it and gives us their report. So.
Any other questions for him? I have one then. David, did you want to ask a question?
No, I didn't want to ask a question. I wanted to make a statement about
Statement.
the design process.
Okay, let me ask him a question, okay, and then we'll get to you. Thank you. When you said we've got $300,000 into the design of the bridge currently, that's money, and you said you're going to apply to the state for that. Are they going to pay for that design cost, or is that the county's going to pay for that?
No, those monies have been assembled, through donations, and I'm not sure if there are any grants in there, but CRA has actually raised that money on behalf of the county.
So that $300,000 is not something we owe. It's been spent, and someone else paid that bill, not the county.
Yeah, I think Dave will probably talk about it, but it's donated funds for design of a bridge. That if we didn't build the bridge, whoever donated those funds might want some of that money back.
Yes. Okay. All right, David?
That was pretty close to my point. I mean, Rotary Charities gave us $25,000 to make sure that the amenities were, the wildlife passage and the trails, there was room enough under the bridge for a trail, for pedestrian crossing. And we used Fry Foundation funds and some other funds that we convinced the funders to allow us to use it for the design of the bridge based upon the actions taken by the board and the road commission back in 2013. That money has been spent. Good luck raising more money if you take money from someone else and throw it down a rat hole. I guess that's my message on the $300,000. I think we owe it. If we decide to cut this project off, we need to reimburse those funds, and they're going to go to the dam removal. But they need to go to the dam removal, and they need to come out of the county coffers to do it. So that would be my strong recommendation to you if you want to continue to get funding for this project. You want to make sure that money that's been spent already gets reimbursed.
Okay. Any other comments?
Or
Yes, Don?
continue with the project.
Or continue the project.
Okay.
Yeah, is it possible to raise the rest of the money? The other $155,000? Where it didn't cost the county anything?
What we don't know is, there's a couple things we don't know. One thing we don't know is, what does it cost to keep Cass Road open? Part of the dam removal process includes that one-lane bridge, but we don't know what portion of that we can raise funds for. And the powerhouse, what we found out, is in order to keep that road going through, we either move it over at a significant increase in cost, or we leave it straight, but then we've got to put a retaining wall in, or we have to take out the powerhouse. And the powerhouse has been a problem ever since we started, ever since I've been here. Their Army Corps of Engineers kind of went around, everybody went around these dams. Went around the old one-lane bridge and said the original channel is over 400 feet to the west, and that's where we're going to go. The rest of this is not our problem. Your road problem, that's your problem. Your powerhouse problem, that's your problem. So we've been talking about that for quite some time, and CRA has been trying to raise the funds from the funders, but a lot of those funds come from Fish and Wildlife funds, and they're for habitat restoration, and they're for river restoration, and Great Lakes fishery, it's all these Great Lakes funding sources, many of them federal. Got to have local funds, and the Army Corps of Engineers may be able to pay up to $10 million of this project for us, but we don't know. And we would have to pay 35% as a match. And you can't match federal money with federal money. So a big question we don't know is, where are we right now as far as the funding goes? There's a lot of funds pending. We have raised a bunch of, or the CRA has raised a bunch of funds. And then there's, what do we do with Cass Road? I mean, there's the design process is continuing. They're going to put the fund, they can't answer the question, how much does it cost to keep Cass Road open? It's more than just that new bridge. It's taking care of the old bridge too, and is that part of the dam removal process? Can we use outside funding for that? Can we use Great Lakes funds? We don't have the answer to those questions. So that's why I put a memo in your packet that said, you really need to put this off a couple months and have this discussion after the IT comes in with all this information and says, this is where we are with this project. These are all your unknowns. These are all your knowns. what do you want to do now? Because of the bat situation, the road, I mean, we would have had to make some decisions on Cass Road right now if we were going to build in 2015. But since we've been pushed off to 2016, now we have the luxury of considering all the information before we come to a decision. And I think our community, there's a lot of people here that, I imagine somebody crossed Cass Road getting here today. Mitch is shaking his head from Kingsley. I think that the public wants to be heard on this. Obviously, many of them are here. I think you've got a lot of considering to do. And I think the Road Commission needs to weigh in as well. So that's my take on all this.
Thank you, David. Anybody else want to make a comment or ask Jim a question?
Jim, do you have anything else you wish to add at this time?
No, the only other thing I would add is, again, we, as the Road Commission, see it as two separate issues. One serves a local need and one serves a bigger need. We're talking about a bypass. And the Road Commission fully supports, looking at all the other options for, solving our traffic volume issues. But again, we would also support moving forward with the Cass Road Bridge at this time.
So you don't see one exclude the other? Like if we do build Cass Road, you don't think that Lansing will say, oh, you got your bridge now, we're not going to give you Hammond Hartman?
Yeah, I personally don't think so.
Anybody else? All right, then we might bring you back up. Should we open this up to public comment now?
I just have a quick question for David.
Yes, go right
Would that
ahead.
be okay?
Yeah.
Just a clarification. Had the bats not had the black fungus and the mating problems, Jim said we would, you can't make this stuff up. Jim said we would probably have been looking at a construction in this year, possibly, of the bridge. But we don't have all of the funding, nor do we know all of the costs.
Right.
So are we building a house without securing a mortgage?
Well, that was the direction that was given back in June of 2013. Go ahead and build this bridge.
And go ahead and
get going.
Now I really don't support this.
Well, but it's been stated a couple times that the CRA said it was going to cost $150,000. That, if you go back and look at that tape, that's not what they said. They said construction, engineering, design also need to be paid for. And if you know anything about designing a $4 million road or $3.5 million road, it's not going to cost pennies to get that done. They couldn't tell you what the numbers were going to be, but they told the Board of Commissioners at that time, that it was going to be $150,000 for the match plus design and construction engineering. So
they wrote a blank.
That turned out to be $600,000 on top of the $150,000. The $300,000 for the design and another $300,000 for construction engineering.
I feel like the long-eared bats might have saved the taxpayers millions of dollars, possibly, if we can look at this again.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay,
nice job. Now we're going to open this up to public comment. And as you know, there's a timer on there. So who would like to go first? Well, it looks like you stood up first. Go right ahead. I just talked with this young man on the phone today.
Thanks for the word young. My name's Bob Otwell, 525 Washington Street. I'm getting a little antsy just listening because I've been listening to very similar discussions for, it's been almost 20 years. And, there's been good discussion on the Cass Road. I think there are legitimate questions to figure out exactly what we're getting and what the cost is. But I think before the county moves ahead, you need to, delve into the whole Hartman-Hammond a little bit more in terms of two things, permission and cost. The bridge that was proposed before was basically filling much of the floodplain. It was not only opposed by many people in the community, it was opposed by the National Fish and Wildlife Service. It was opposed by EPA. And what I thought was the final nail in the coffin was when the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality opposed it. Just to think that we're going to go out in the next couple of years and build this bridge, I think is is not true. In terms of funding, I remember a price tag, I don't know what it was, $30, $40 million. And again, that was for a shorter bridge to do a full-scale bridge, a full span all the way across a floodplain. The Talus 2035 plan has a cost of $100 million. So you guys are, kind of arguing about where's this 100,000 coming from? Where are you going to get $100 million or the local match for $100 million? So, I mean, I think you really need to look into some of the Hartman-Hammond issues. I think you have to look into it before you walk away from a bridge that's been there 100 years and that our community is used to. The plan that went around, if we started with a blank slate, we wouldn't put the Cass Road Bridge where it is. But we don't have a blank slate. People have been living here for 150 years, and we have a settlement pattern. And so, Hartman-Hammond is in the long-range plan. Maybe it's worth pursuing. I don't think so, but maybe it is sometime down the road. But I don't think it's now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Raise your hand and I'll pick you out. Okay. Yes, sir, you with the...
Just your name.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Joe Yelenich, 1902 Swan Point Drive, Traverse City, Michigan. I'm here representing the Traverse City Area Public Schools. It was asked earlier about how much it would cost us if there was no connection there. Traverse City Area Public Schools' top priority is the safety and security of our students. In order to safely and efficiently transport area students to school, Traverse City Area Public Schools needs access to routes that provide an east-west connection. The anticipated cost to the district if Cass Road Bridge is not reconstructed is estimated to be $120,000 annually. The Hammond-Hart Road connection is expected to have minimal impact on the district. Thank you
very much. Okay, then let's see. You raised your hand next. Yeah, come on up.
Gary Howe, 926 Lincoln Street, Traverse City. Sitting here, I realize I'm a county resident as well. Didn't plan to speak tonight. But the fact that I'm a county resident as well, I kind of first speak to the viewing public if there is some. City residents need to be involved in the county as well. And I guess we could ask the County Road Commission about that. In 2013, their road millage passed because of city residents. So it failed in places outside of the city. And that gets to some of the points that were already made. The cost to the taxpayers. And it's that TC Talus report does have the Hartman-Hammond in it, but it's at $100 million, $98 million. Maybe that can be shaved down, maybe it can't. The longer you wait, the likelihood of that cost going down is not very likely. Last I checked, I don't know where we have $98 million in the Traverse City region to put towards one road project. Meanwhile, we also have a lot of private development, basically subdivisions, that the County Road Commission is on the slate for. So we're responsible for those roads as well. Those are dead-end streets that serve maybe 30, 20 houses. But that's a legacy cost that, because of past decisions, all of us are going to pay. City residents, county residents, township residents, everybody. So that's my concern looking at this. And I am a city commissioner. That's not why I'm here today. But obviously, as a city commissioner, you have your first year under your belt. You look at a lot of budgets. You look at a lot of numbers. And you start to see, there's a 30-year, your decision is a 30-year decision. And I just see right now, you have a process in place. You have a bridge that you can build relatively soon, 2016, 17, hopefully. It's used, as Commissioner Wheelock has pointed out, it'll be used more once you get a nice bridge there. I mentioned that I'm a city resident. I rarely leave the city. 90% of my trips, activity is in the city. When I leave, I tend to go along Cass Road, and I go out the Boardman River Valley. Literally, that's when I leave the city, that's where I go. So I know this area very well. I know the road network. As Mr. Otwell has pointed out before, yeah, Hartman-Hammond would be great if it was a clean slate, but that's not what we have. So I've been supportive of moving forward. The dams removals, building the bridge where it is in place. I think it would be a mistake to pass this up. Thanks.
Thank you. Who's next? I think the lady in front. I'll get to every one of you, I promised.
June Thaden, Highland Park Drive, Traverse City. And just like our commissioner here, I'm a member of the county also. I pay the taxes and all that stuff. I know that you guys are familiar with the map you put out. I know everybody in this room knows north-south and east-west. Cass River Bridge would serve, the dam now serves, everybody who's going south from the center of town west of the Boardman Lake. If I'm downtown and I want to go out that way, I use Cass River rather than South Airport and the highway. If I'm on the east side of town where I actually live, I use Garfield. But you take Cass out and all that traffic ultimately, if it needs to go north-south, is going to go to Garfield, which is fairly busy now, or South Airport, which is overwhelmed, and then the highway. And just for fun, if I were a parent and I was used to using Cass River Dam Bridge to get my kid to soccer from the South Airport Cass Road, I would have to go about a mile west on South Airport, 3.5 miles south on US 31, and then about 3.5 miles back up Beitner to the soccer field. That's 8 miles, where it's about 3 miles down down Cass Road to get there. There are a lot of people, for various reasons, want to go home or go out that way, either out Garfield to Kingsley or over to the highway, Chums Corners, and south or west. That's an awful lot of cars dumped onto South Airport for people that don't have Cass Road. And you made, the county commission and everybody else in good faith made a deal some long time ago. How do you back out of that now? I don't understand that. If I signed a contract several years ago and supported an idea, I couldn't turn around now and say, well, that legal document has nothing to do with me. I mean, I'm not the same person I was a while ago, or something like that. Please support the Cass River Bridge.
Thank you very much. Okay, and the man in the checkered coat.
Good evening. Dave Petrov. I live 9988 Riley Road in Interlaken. I use the Cass River Road bridge once in a while. Not often, for many of the same reasons. The only thing I'd like to question here, it seems like I think we need to have the east-west corridor of some sort here, in addition, okay? It seems pretty much certain that someday in the future we may have the Hartman-Hammond connection. That's not something that's going to happen right away. We do have a proposal to put in the Cass Bridge. It looks like, by what I'm hearing here, we might be looking at 1.5 to 2 years before that's complete. If you decide to do something on Hammond-Hartman, you're looking at a couple of years before you even get engineering done, at least. What I'm worried about is I see that it feels like to me like there's an emphasis here, if we can take out the one current east-west connection that we have, the Cass River bridge there, it's going to put a lot of pressure on everybody here to come up with a new plan. That's going to push us into making a decision to try and do a Hartman-Hammond connection, whether we want it or not. This is more like an extortion type thing. If we take out the one, you have no alternative. And now there's going to be a lot of public pressure on doing the other. And that's not the way to make a decision. We have something that works, it's already planned, it's designed. I think we should continue with getting the first bridge in there, and if in the future somebody wants to do a Hammond-Hartman connection, talk about it, at our pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, yes, the lady back there in the blue.
Excuse me. Ann Rogers, 1236 Peninsula Drive, Traverse City, Michigan, county resident, and also currently chair of NEMIAC, Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council. We are an all-volunteer organization, and we have over 400 members that are active. We worked very, very hard during the years of 1990 to 2000 to oppose the Hartman-Hammond Bridge. It was a 10-year effort, and it included support from the City of Traverse City, the DDA, Michigan Land Use Institute, the Watershed Center, Coalition for Sensible Growth, the Anglers of the Boardman, the Sierra Club, and as in memory of Helen Milliken. Helen was very passionate about not having the environment destroyed. You've already heard about the environmental impact that it would have. Others have spoken to that. I feel that in fact, I want to thank Sonny Wheelock for having the common sense to be the first to separate these two issues. This is not an either or. This is something that the people who have worked on the Boardman River dam removal have approved and we have the money. As a taxpayer, I would feel that this would not be fiscally responsible to toss out the over $3 million plus the $300,000 that were donated. Not taxpayer money, it was donated money, and to leave us for at least probably another 8 to 10 years without any satisfaction. So I encourage you to separate the two issues, move forward as planned on the Cass Road Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, let's go with the man in the back, then you next, okay?
Yes, Greg Reisig. I'm also on the NEMIAC board with Ann Rogers, and we're based in Traverse City. NEMIAC supports and has supported the Cass Road Bridge replacement and the Boardman River Restoration Project, and we feel this should go forward. We've been opposed to the Hammond-Hartman Bridge because of environmental reasons and the potential for a commercial sprawl corridor that it could create south of town. One thing for sure, there needs to be a full public process in a discussion of a Hammond-Hartman Bridge. And maybe that's somewhere down the future, but we would urge you to go forward with the Cass Road Bridge replacement. Thank you.
Thank you. And now you.
Mitch Foster, Village Manager, Village of Kingsley. Just a couple of things. I'll be brief. There's a lot of people here, so we should get this moving. For me, it comes down to two things for the village. One, the Cass Road itself, the bridge, is used quite often by village residents, southern Grand Traverse County residents, as a north-south corridor. It is not east-west. City residents, northern Grand Traverse County residents may think of it as an east-west corridor. For us, it's not. It is how you get to the west side of Traverse City. Plain and simple. If you're going up to any side of the west side of Traverse City, you're taking the Cass Road Bridge. It just makes sense. I didn't know about it for about a year into living here. Now that I do, I save like 10 minutes on my drive. It's tremendous, even with one lane. So I would please take into consideration those outlying areas in the south that hardly ever get the attention of the county commission and other areas, but I think it's important. And then I would like to reiterate that to our county commissioner, Dr. Johnson, as this is a democratic republic, I would like to reinforce that to you as our representative, that you vote against kind of combining these two, because as has been talked about, they're two separate issues in the minds of many people. If the decision is not to build or rebuild this bridge, okay, so be it, but it should not be connected to the Hartman-Hammond. The Village of Kingsley is supportive of that east-west connection, Hartman-Hammond. However, it should not replace or displace the existing north-south connection for us. Thank you.
If I just could address that, Fife Lake and East Bay did vote to support that, so I'm kind of caught in the middle.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir, you in the front.
Bob Eichenlaub, Traverse City. I'll spell that for you later. I agree with Sonny Wheelock. He just makes so much sense. This isn't an either-or proposition. I feel like the Hammond-Hartman, it's a slick move to try to get Hammond-Hartman back on the agenda, and we can use both. I mean, so let's just play it out, just rough math here. If we go forward with Hammond-Hartman, I think the best guess would be if it were to go through 10 years. Okay, I'm a taxpayer also, and so what we're going to do is take $100,000 or more per year out of the public schools for 10 years. That's $1 million. So the county can save $300,000. We're taking it from one pocket to the other. It doesn't make any sense. And it also doesn't make any sense to take 5,000 cars and put them on South Airport when if we built this, there's going to be 15,000. So it's going to reduce South Airport. It's not going to solve the problem. I really think we do need both. And sooner or later, we may have to come to the Hammond-Hartman. But this is silly. This is just silliness. So I wish you'd reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, who's next? John, you had your hand up. John, was that you, John Syke? Did you have your hand up? No. Just because you're so good looking, I'm looking at you. Okay, yes, there's a lady in front of you. That's who I'm at. Okay.
Good evening, TJ Andrews, 619 Webster Street in Traverse City. I'm also a county resident. A lot has already been said, so I'm not going to reiterate it. My colleagues know me as a person who likes to get my metaphors mixed up, so I'm going to attempt to do that this evening. This appears to me to be a bird in the hand situation. We have the opportunity to spend not a lot of money to get a bridge pretty immediately. It's already been designed. This board, different people, but this legal board agreed to do that a year and a half ago, and a lot of people have taken action to make that happen. It's not going to cost a relatively large amount of money, all the reasons that it's doable in the foreseeable future versus a bridge that may happen if you can get all regulators to sign off on it in maybe 10 years for $100 million where no one knows where that money might possibly come from. It just doesn't seem to make sense. There was reference to the idea of a bad marriage, that this decision of this group to fund this seemingly straightforward decision was a bad marriage that should be ended. I think the decision to link Hartman-Hammond to Cass Road might be analogous to an arranged marriage. They seem to have nothing in common and shouldn't be linked together, and would reiterate the comments that people before me that we should separate those two issues and have a Hartman-Hammond discussion, if there's going to be a discussion, in a reasonable format with everyone who's involved weighing in. But this is just about Cass Road right now. So I hope you'll do the right thing and let that process continue. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? You've already made a comment. Let's,
The guy in the far corner has had his hand up for quite a while. You probably
You
can't
have.
see
Your
him.
hand's tired by now. Come on
You
up.
probably can't see him with the podium.
Thank you so much.
My name is Peter Reed, and I live on the corner of Keystone and River Road. My driveway is 50 feet from River Road on Keystone. I've lived there for 34 years. So a lot of what you're talking about, I've lived. Now, in 1991, I and a group of people put together a committee that stopped the development of the 25 acres on the corner of Bermley and Keystone. The county bought that property. It was a spot zone piece of property, and they were going to move there solid waste. The jail was going to move. They were going to have a minimum work release security establishment there, and they were going to move DPW there. That would have put road or signs along Keystone that said, "Don't pick up hitchhikers," because we would have had a prison there. Had we not stopped that, which took 6 months, and constant references to the new guidebook that had just come out, and that particular document that a lot of us have forgotten about. It's been rolled into the Grand Vision. I used to get up at meetings and wave that and ask people if they knew that they had already committed to using it, and most of the people I was talking to didn't even know what it was. But we managed to stop that development, not because we physically stopped it, but because we created so many public meetings, they ran out of time to get their grant. Now, had that not been stopped, what you see along Keystone right now would not be there. In other words, you would not see soccer fields on Keystone. I've been on numerous committees since that time, including one of the committees I was on a few years ago was the road committee for the Chamber of Commerce. One of the last meetings I was at, before that committee was morphed into the Grand Vision and it became a number of other committees, and I transferred to the Transit Committee instead. One of the last meetings I was at, we had a report. We had monthly reports from the Bridge and the Dam Removal Committee. One of the last meetings I was at, they came to report the findings of the Dam Removal Committee subcommittee and their recommendations for how they felt we should cross the Cass Road Bridge. They reported that we should cross the Cass Road Bridge on the Hartman-Hammond corridor. That was what they reported. Now, Mr. Wheelock said that everybody's been on board with just an idea of one thing, and this was what they reported. This was the subcommittee report from the committee that had worked 3 months on looking at where we should cross the bridge. Now, I'm not saying here that we should eliminate the Cass Road Bridge and only look at one or the other. I'm not saying that. But I've been around long enough. I happen to be a realtor, and I'm also, and I've lived here for a long, long time. I grew up on the peninsula where, when I lived on the peninsula, I could ride into town 9 miles, swinging a tennis racket, and never see a car.
You're going to have to wind it up. Have to wind it up.
Okay. Well, you're going to miss an awful lot of good stuff then. I'm sorry. Because I'm not opposed to this. I'm just saying that I've got to say a couple more things, please. I think this is important.
Okay, I'll give you another minute. Thank you.
Okay. One of the other things that happened in '06 was that the township supervisor from Blair Township said that there were 12 subdivisions that had been approved along River Road. That's just in their segment of River Road, not East Bay's segment of River Road. Okay, that's 12 subdivisions. They obviously went dormant during this period where we've had 7 years of nothing going on. My point is that the other thing is the 8th Road Corridor Study. There was a question asked by a Webster woman who said, what's going on 8th Street? I don't understand how we can deal with this. 8th Street's so busy and so on. And the gentleman that had done that study for the Traverse City said, and he said it very nicely, he said, one thing I want you to realize, our study reveals that Traverse City the growth coming to Traverse City is not going to stop. It's just going to continue. And so we all have to adjust to it. So my point is, whether you want to look at just the Cass Road Bridge or the Hartman-Hammer Bridge or both, what you really need to get serious about is that the growth coming to Traverse City isn't going to stop. And the current roads that we have are not handling the traffic that we have. In the summer, the traffic from Trump's Corners is backed up all the way down to the cutover from Hammond. That is a moving parking lot. Okay. That's 3 miles.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So get serious about this.
Thank you.
Please.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, now go ahead. Yes, ma'am, you with the beautiful necklace on. Yep.
Hi, I'm Betsy Coffia. I live at 1018 Boyd Avenue here in the city. I've traveled a lot all over the county, actually, over the last year, so have used that road quite a bit. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I guess I was surprised as a citizen to see that several of you, your nameplates haven't dried yet. You're very new. This is the first month of your tenure here, and I thank you for your intent to serve, but I just want to know why we're in a really big hurry to potentially scrap something that the last board committed to, and to push something that perhaps is on some of you folks' agendas right out the gate. I would like you as a taxpayer, I would like to see some due diligence. I would like to see you have this meeting with Mr. Benda and discuss this more thoroughly before we start passing dramatic resolutions for things that are obviously pretty, folks feel pretty strongly about as taxpayers. And Mr. Lathrop, you're my commissioner, so specifically to you, I would encourage you to lead on that. And you're also somebody who's been on the board for a while. So thank you,
Betsy. Okay, now, Mark, come on up. I want to ask you a question, Bonnie, while he's coming up. If a person's already commented on this, can they come up again during this comment period?
Well, I believe your rules say that no person can
Comment on the same thing twice?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
But that's not you, though. You can talk. Mark, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Mark McKellar, 2050 East River Road. I live on the Boardman River. I'm an environmentalist. I have been since I was about 5 years old. I don't subscribe to any group. I am one by myself. So are my kids. We're all stewards. My family. We're trout fishermen. We hunt, enjoy the outdoors. That's why I moved here 30 years ago, to raise my family in a community. I'm also a Grand Traverse County Road Commissioner. I've been watching this thing play out for 30 years, the discussion about east-west crossing. I promised about 50 people I wouldn't open my mouth up tonight, but I'm not going to do that. This is emotional for me. This is really emotional for me. It really is. I have to admit, I'm a conservative. I know almost everybody in this room. I know where most everybody in this room leans politically. So on this one, I'm going to ride right down the middle. Okay? This is where I look at it. We need 2 crossings. One serves a purpose for the local community, and that's immediate, and that's now. We have another one, which is a long range. Okay, we keep at this rate, in 2035, I may not be around to see the next bridge. My kids and grandkids will. We have to get over our personal differences. We have to come together as a community to do what's right for all of us. We start drawing the line in the sand one more time, we're going to ruin good people, we're going to ruin good relationships, and we're going to put another smirk right up on our face of our community. So the bottom line is that 4 years ago, when I went on the Road Commission Board, there was a discussion of a bridge. And I thought it odd after a few months that this conversation of the bridge was occurring without any involvement from the Road Commission. There were groups, we could not understand it. I respect CRA and everything that they've been doing throughout the state and also in our community locally. Who are these people? Why is an engineering firm involved? County wants to remove the dams, but in the process of removing a dam, they inherit a bridge and the expense that goes with it. On the other hand, the County Road Commission seeks a grant to replace a bridge that's failing. It was kind of like after 2 years, we went and scratched our head at our board meeting, looked at each other and said, you know what? We're not going to sit out here in Lafreniere Road and talk amongst ourselves the what ifs and what's going on and why, while the county commission sits down on 400 boardmen doing the same darn thing. So we kind of keep going?
Yeah.
So we decided to reach out to the county commission, and we did. And we had 2 joint meetings. Because you know what? We're the 2 parties that are right up to our eyeballs in this thing. And we're financially on the hook, too. And we wanted to find out from the Road Commission how much on the hook we were financially and what we were bringing to the table and what we could do to help. Because we're going to inherit the bridge no matter what. And there's not going to be a conversation that's going to happen in this community about roads and transportation without the Grand Traverse County Road Commission. I guarantee you that. That's happened too many years. It ain't happened no more. Not with your current board, not the people you put in there. You asked us to be stewards. You asked us to get involved, and you asked us to be the planners for the community. That's why we dropped out of Talus, because we were going to not have somebody talking on our behalf. So what we really need to do is put the 2 bodies back together, and we need to talk. Elisa, I absolutely understand a blank check. That's why we called those meetings, okay? I wouldn't sign a blank check either. There's finance people sitting on that board over there I'm looking at. There's people that have been on the board for many years, too, that have seen this discussion. So I'd invite this board to get together with the Road Commission board. And let's talk about hard numbers, because quite frankly, Mr. Cook, he stood here and I think he did an awesome job. And I will say on record, we hired an awesome administrator because he's under the gun, he's under pressure. Fact of the matter is he's ex officio member of the IT team. We're almost on the outside looking in as a road commission. Afterwards, we get the bridge back to maintain and take care of. So we have a lot to think about and we've got a lot at stake. We didn't want to commit you guys to paying on an open check for a bridge. We really didn't. We know that your plan was to get rid of the bridges, the dams. So let's get together. Let's slow this train down. Let's get up together in common sense. Let's talk dollars and cents. Let's put the people that are actually putting together the engineering, the cost estimates, the financials. I think CRA needs to be there. This needs to be a working meeting. Roll up our sleeves, get down to brass tacks, and find out how much is this going to cost. Okay? That's the Cass Road deal. Hammond-Hartman, I don't care what you call it. We have got to have a crossing in this town that's going to protect our residents. Our major medical center's on the west side of town. We have one major accident out on Miracle Mile, knock out a power pole, and we have and if this is a weather event, and we have South Airport Road get jammed up, and then we have some problem like a flooding issue on those 4 culverts down there. We are dead in the water, and our citizens are sitting in ambulances dying. And let's get real. That's a truth statement. And you ask the first responders in our community about what it's like getting across town to the hospital when it's bad weather, they'll tell you. So we got to quit kicking the political football around back and forth. It's a good discussion. I'm glad it was brought up. I think everybody's got valid purpose for bringing it up. I hope their motivation is pure. So with that, as a resident of the county and as a county road commissioner, that's why I want to respectfully say to this group. I wanted to wait, let everybody get a chance to say something. I don't care what party I'm with. Let's do the right thing for our community. Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else? Okay. You want to make another comment, and normally we don't let people talk twice on the same issue, but I'm going to let you talk. Go ahead.
Fred Lotte from Five Lake. I drive Cass Road and that bridge quite often. Cass Road south of South Airport, it's mostly businesses and there's a school there, right? I wonder how many of those people want to suddenly find themselves on a dead-end street. They located there because they could be accessed on both sides. And if those businesses lose half of their customers because half of them cannot get to them or have to go 3 miles to a 3-mile detour, couldn't that potentially cost the county more in lost revenue than the cost of replacing that bridge?
Okay, thank you very much.
That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm really impressed with our community. I'm so glad you showed up and gave your comments. And this is, Mark said so, this is really an emotional thing for me, too. I've been struggling with it. I mean, it's been tough. It's going to be a hard vote. So we got to come back, board. We have a motion and we have a second. Could we have the motion reread and so that we all understand what it is?
I jotted it down from Mr. Forsythe, so I will.
Go ahead.
And just to reiterate on the motion, the entire idea was exactly what Mark said. It was to get together and discuss this, and that's why you don't see the words about the Cass Road Bridge in the motion. It's really to talk, and most of that is hinging on the fact that we're building a house and haven't secured the mortgage. The motion is to ask council to draft a resolution in support of the Hartman-Hammond and to address the current issues with the development agreement with the Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
So this really has two prongs to it. It's a resolution to promote Hartman-Hammond, we want Hartman-Hammond.
Yes.
And it's also a time to talk about Cass Bridge.
It's saying that when we go into discussions with the Road Commission about Cass Road Bridge, we are going in there with a consensus that we want to acknowledge that there is a desire for an east-west corridor, and Cass Road isn't that corridor.
So this, I want to clarify it. This motion does not stop us from going forward on...
It hasn't done anything of the, I think there was a misunderstanding.
Just discussion, right?
It is just a discussion.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. It's been clarified. Now let's have more board comments on the motion. Let's go, Sonny, it's you first.
I won't be supporting the motion because of the way that it's drafted. If we want to have a discussion about having a joint meeting with the Road Commission to discuss Cass Road Bridge, I will certainly support that. And when the time comes to have a discussion about supporting Hartman-Hammond corridor, I will support that. But this motion still ties the two together. And I don't believe they are tied together. I believe they're two separate issues. And you can say that it doesn't, but the fact is, as long as you make one motion that talks about Hartman-Hammond, and in the same motion you're talking about having a joint meeting with the Road Commission to talk about the Cass Road Bridge, even though you didn't name it by name in your motion, they're tied together. They're two separate issues. Do not vote for them as one issue. If this motion passes, great, I guess it's the way it's going to be, but it will be without my vote. If this motion fails, I will make a motion to hold a joint meeting with the Road Commission to discuss exactly where we're at with the Cass Road Bridge.
Okay, Commissioner Crawford.
I also want to thank everybody for their comments. It's obvious that there's a lot of passion on both sides, and it really isn't two sides of anything. It's just discussion about how things ought to go going forward. I am still in support of a Hartman-Hammond connection. However, when I heard the gentleman who was a representative from TCAPS, and I believe he's left, but because I had another question for him, but say that there was some discussion about the fact that the buses can't go across the bridge as it is right now with children on it, on the bus. They can only use that connection right now empty. And if that connection wasn't there, it would cost TCAPS an extra $120,000 a year. And I think that's very significant. There was also information about if the Cass Bridge is built, that it could handle many more cars. I'm assuming it could also handle buses full of children. So if there is, and this is a significant change from when I came in the room today, but if there is a cost to TCAPS if that connection doesn't exist and they're only using it half the time with empty buses, I can only assume that there will be a savings to TCAPS if they can use that connection both ways. Being a mom, a TCAPS mom, and I've been very involved in the schools for a long time, that's very significant to me. I have sent Mr. Soma an email asking for those numbers. I would like to know how that will affect the TCAPS busing situation, because that's a lot of money for our kids. So that is my comment. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
I guess I kind of agree with Sonny that I'd kind of like it a little more separated, kind of like Commissioner Crawford. I think I came in here with one impression, and I've heard some very good, valid points today. I made a note about the bus. Yeah, $120,000 in their budget's a big chunk. The other two items that really have weighed on me is, yes, we weren't on board when this decision was made, but we are the board, and the impression that will be given if we start backpedaling some of this with the monies that have been donated probably won't look good. And I think we will be hard pressed to get money again, so I think we need to address that. And then the other issue is with the condition of South Airport and the culverts there. I mean, we're just a minor incident away from gridlock. And if you did have the Cass Road Bridge, at least it might alleviate some of that. So I guess I would like for that motion to be a little more concise about just the Hartman-Hammond. So.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, Ron.
I got a tally here that there was 18 people spoke, and there wasn't any of them up there that spoke and that was in favor of not putting in the Cass Bridge. That's everybody of the 18 people, they were in favor of putting that Cass Bridge in.
Right.
The masses here spoke tonight. I'm sure we didn't go out and corral enough of the people that didn't want the bridge in. You know, we didn't do a good enough job getting those folks here tonight.
Okay.
If indeed they're out there.
Okay, now I want to bring up something. Our attorney just told us that we could divide this question. Can you explain what you mean?
Right, if you want to just separate out the issues, you deal with
I was just
one.
going to say, I won't touch the motion until council does it, because he created the first one, so I'm not going to do that.
Would you explain to us what you mean?
So you could deal with the issue of Hammond-Harmon Bridge and the support for that in one motion. And maybe that motion would be to have further discussion about the concept and figuring out, one, if there is support for that, and two, what is the timeline for getting that crossing put in? And then second, a separate motion dealing with just setting up a joint meeting with the road commission to talk about the Cass Road Bridge and the development agreement.
Would you guys be willing to amend your
Mr. Chairman,
motion?
I think, just because Bonnie's over here trying to figure out how she's going to scratch out this and scratch out that, my suggestion to you would be to if that's the result that you want, turn down the motion that's on the table, and then let's talk about two separate motions. It would be less confusing than trying to go in and edit the motion that's already existing.
Well, what you do is divide the question. You'd have to have a motion and a support to divide the question, no discussion. You vote yes or no, then the question is either divided or it's not divided. And then you vote on the original motion, or you vote
You'd have to
on
vote
the
on
two
the
separate
amendments
questions.
and everything else. It's easier just to vote down the motion and then handle two separate motions.
Okay, so I understand. Yeah, okay.
Mr.
you next.
Chairman, I would move to divide the question.
Okay, now, can we do that? We have a motion already on the floor. Can we do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Supersede.
Okay. Is there a second to divide the question? Robert? Okay. No discussion. Okay. Let's do a roll call.
Motion was made by Max Bauer and seconded by Johnson to divide the question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
We don't want to do
Propa?
No.
Johnson?
No.
Crawford?
No.
Klaus?
No.
Wheelock?
No.
Max Bauer?
I recognize a trend when I see one. No.
Lathrop?
Now,
No.
address.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Now we're going to vote. Yeah, okay, more comment.
I think what Commissioner Wheelock was trying to say is, if we vote on the original motion and all vote no, we can start fresh with two separate motions.
Yes.
And that would really be the easier way to do it.
Well, that's what's going to happen.
For Bonnie's sake, if nothing else.
That's what's going to happen right now.
Okay, so if we
Okay.
could vote on
We've all
that.
talked?
If you would allow me to withdraw them, no one's asked the
No,
motion maker to
no,
withdraw it.
Just vote on the motion. It's a lot less confusing than
Really?
that.
All right.
And every other purpose.
Okay.
Withdraw the motion. I'll withdraw my support.
That works too.
They have the power to do that.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
You all right with that?
Okay, so they've
I'm fine with
withdrawn
that.
the motion.
The
Now,
reason why you don't have a vote on the record with a motion standing.
Okay,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
I don't know who Robert is, but his rules are
Okay.
pretty good.
Fair
all right, so
enough.
you've withdrawn the motion,
I will withdraw the motion.
and the second withdraws it.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if
Right,
I
we're
may
clear.
have a moment to say what I wanted to say during the
Of course. Yeah.
The reason we were here today, and this was brought back up, originally was to support an east-west corridor in this town. Then the long-eared bat came into play, and agreement that we have with the road commission and everything, and that put those items back together. I don't disagree with Commissioner Wheelock. This is two different issues. I just didn't get a chance to speak to say why it was put this way, and this is why. We had the opportunity as a community, I've listened to every single one of you and enjoyed it all. And I didn't hear one person say we don't need an east-west corridor. Am I correct here? I also am looking at over a dozen emails I've received in the last hour supporting our motion to support the Hartman-Hammond and not support the Cass Road. I'm happy to read them, and I'll read the names. They weren't able to be here tonight, but are watching on TV at home. So I know I speak for a lot of people when I say we support this Hartman-Hammond. The state of Michigan wants to see our community come together and say we exist above Lansing. We want some funding. We've thrown out arbitrary numbers from 20 million to 90 million on the Hartman-Hammond Bridge. You know why nobody knows how much it costs? Because they won't help us look for funding. Why? Because they watch and see all of the division amongst the citizens. It is two separate items. I want to see everybody join together. Doesn't matter about the Cass Road Bridge. Set it aside and say, we deserve a look from Lansing and DC for funding to help us alleviate our infrastructure problems. We need an east-west corridor. And the only way we're ever going to be able to afford that is with federal and state bypass dollars. This is not about Cass Road. They got married together. I've been saying they needed to be separated. This is why. These resolutions going around to the townships aren't stopping us from funding the Cass Road Bridge. What they're saying is we matter. Every corner of the county matters, from Grant Township to Fife Lake Village to Old Mission Peninsula. They all are affected by the fact that we can't drive around our county. I've listened to everybody say they can't drive around the county. Why can't we join together in a resolution to support a Hartman-Hammond bypass with no mention of Cass Road, so that together we can join with Acme and East Bay and Fife Lake and Union and Long Lake and Old Mission and Kingsley and Fife Lake to say, we matter. Hey, help us. We have a consensus that says we need help. Mark McKellar said so. Jim Cook said so. We need help with our infrastructure. The only place we're going to get it is from the state and the federal government. And the only way they're going to take us seriously is by a consensus of resolution stating we support a Hartman-Hammond bypass. So I would love to talk about long-eared bats and the Cass Road contract, and I would absolutely love to sit down and find out costs, which all of you know I care about costs. But I am asking this commission to make a resolution to support the Hartman-Hammond Bridge. It has no mention of Cass Road in it then. But just so that we can go to DC and say, hello, we matter. You're sending all of your tourists up here with your Pure Michigan dollars, but you're not telling us how to route them around our county. What are we going to do? I want to see a resolution to support a bypass. And then we can make a motion to meet with the road commission and discuss the Cass Road contract. That's fine. I was never intended to put them together in that way. I think that was a major misunderstanding. We're here to stand together despite our thoughts on the Cass Road Bridge and say to Lansing, help us. I think everybody, every email I've read, every comment I've listened to would support that. So that would be my motion, is a resolution to support a Hartman-Hammond bypass in Grand Traverse County.
Okay, is that a motion?
That is.
All right, do we have a second?
I would second that.
Okay, any discussion? Yes.
I absolutely will support the motion to support the east-west corridor. I don't know that I want to call it Hartman-Hammond. I don't care whatever, one way or the other. I'm fine with Hartman-Hammond, but the fact is we try to explain it to Lansing, MDOT, the U.S. Department of Transportation. We need to talk about this as an east-west corridor in our community, not with a specific name on it. I believe that would be the proper thing to do. And then, you know, I'm willing to, absolutely, I will support that, but I would like to, you know, if I could, a friendly amendment to call this an east-west corridor within our community.
Are you amenable to that?
I will point out that the other resolutions passed stated that they wanted an east-west corridor with Hartman-Hammond being the most obvious choice. To match along and have a consensus, you can't have one have a broad term where the others had a fairly specific term. So I would like to have my motion stay the way that it is, to join alongside our friends in East Bay and Blair and Fife Lake and Acme and show some sort of consensus in our community. So I would like to keep my motion as it stands.
Okay, there's a motion, there's a second, there's been discussion. Any more discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I kind of like the east-west thing just because I think we do owe it eventually to look at if there are alternatives. I think that's the most logical place is Hartman-Hammond, obviously. But I don't know if that hems us in just to that with the resolution, or if we can word it such as the, any good plan for an east-west corridor. I don't want to get blocked right into that, I guess.
Yes, sir.
I remember 10, 15 years ago, we had a discussion about an east-west corridor, and they talked about bringing Gray Road through Long Lake Township, across by Doug Gallagher's dairy farm, across and hitting out to River Road, and it actually ended up out at Bates. And then once they got to Bates, they couldn't figure out what to do with the traffic, so they were going to bring it all the way back down 31 or back down 72 to Acme. It didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. I've seen studies that talked about doing an east-west corridor where they went out to Center Road, to the big turn just north of Buckley, and take that across to South Boardman. If there's a difference whether we're talking about a road that services our community or if we're talking about a bypass. If you want to talk about a bypass, you go south of Traverse City, you go south down in South Grand Traverse County, either down to Center Road, or you go to Beitner Road and you take it across to South Boardman somewhere. Then you've created a bypass. But I'm not sure that the community is going to support that either, because they want those toddlers to come back into our community also. So, we can't have all of the above. If we want to have a discussion about Cass, the Hartman-Hammond crossing, I absolutely can support that. But let us not think that that creates a bypass, because it still doesn't take us anywhere.
Okay, so there's a vote.
I'm just looking up the wording right now on the other resolutions so that I can...
The other thing is, I'm real curious who solicited these resolutions from the other townships. That I haven't seen it on any township agenda, in recently for a long time, and all of a sudden these resolutions are showing up. So obviously they're being solicited by someone.
It was when the TC Talus passed their master plan. It was awaiting the approval of the Hartman-Hammond Bridge being in the TC Talus Master Plan. That happened, I believe, in November, but I could be wrong. It could have been a different month. And then the resolution support started from that point because it became clear, as mentioned with the dollar amounts in TC Talus's report, we needed to seek state and federal help. And as mentioned by Ron, we're moving at glacial speed. So therefore, with the passage of the TC Talus 2035 Master Plan, including this, then that would allow to say we have a consensus with our transportation and land use study, and that would be the impetus for the resolutions.
Okay, so we've got this, we're working on getting this motion passed, and what is it you're doing now, Elisa?
I'm looking to see what wording was used, and it was, the word used was the Hartman-Hammond Bridge. I did sit in Mr. Lyle's township meeting with East Bay and their Board of Trustees as they discussed this resolution. And they also discussed how does it impact East Bay Township. And what they ultimately decided was to support the bridge was to support everybody in the county. The long-range east-west corridor would be up to the individual townships and their master plans. We're coming together to say we need funds for this bridge to cross the river. So that's why I like the idea of keeping those words in it, because it matches the other ones. East Bay had a different reason for passing it, as did Blair, and I sat through all of theirs and listened. And it's about consensus building. Regardless of what side we stand on Cass Road, we all agree we need help here. So
Okay.
I, again, would ask to keep it in a consensus with our friends in the other townships.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we have some discussions. Any more discussion on the board? Okay, so let's bring it to a vote, is that right? Okay, roll call on it.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Klaus?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Kropa?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes. Motion carried. Now, thank you. Now, Sonny, I bet you got a motion in mind.
We didn't even have to split it.
Mr. Chairman, I would...
Don't be shy.
That's probably a safe bet. I would make a motion that we do due diligence to schedule a joint meeting with the Road Commission very soon to review the information in regard to the costs with the Road Commission and all of the necessary parties, because you've got the CRA and all of those people need to be involved in that discussion also. But we need to move quickly to reaffirm the decisions that have been made by prior county boards to move forward with the Cass Road Bridge. This thing would have been under construction in about 90 days from now, or getting pretty close to it, if we hadn't found long-eared, black-tailed bats or whatever they are. So
It just shows you this county really is batty. Yeah. Okay, is there a second to that motion? Oh, yeah.
Well, if there's a second, then we can discuss.
I will support the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
I just wanted to note that the implementation team is scheduling meetings with community stakeholders at the chamber. You may have gotten that email yesterday or
Yes.
today. And they plan, the design process is, they're firming up estimates. They're trying to answer the question of how much it costs to keep Cass Road open, including fixing the one-lane bridge and creating a two-lane road there. And they were planning to do that at the beginning of March. I don't know if that fits into your let's do it quickly timetable, but that's about as quickly as we can get all the information together. So I'd encourage you to wait until the beginning of March, and then we can have this full discussion with the Road Commission and the implementation team and URS, the people who are actually doing the work and putting the construction documents.
my point is, it's critical
design
that
documents
we
together.
make a decision very soon to reaffirm or to, if we're going to go some other direction, we need to make a decision very soon on this project. We're 10 years into this right now.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second to have a joint meeting very soon. Now, what do I do next? Do we define very soon?
Now we'll have David try to get it scheduled with the necessary party.
Okay.
And this is also when the cost analysis are in.
Yes.
Which.
Yeah, there's no
okay.
sense.
Yeah, and
There's no sense in
it's
scheduling
not
a
just the
meeting
bridge, it's
when we
also
have
the
not
dam
known
removal and,
The power house.
whether we're going to use the Army Corps of Engineers and what our options are, if we
Okay,
do
cool.
or if we don't.
I like
Yeah.
that.
If I could just add, I think a discussion of the development agreement and possibly amending that to be discussed as well.
That would
At
be
that
an
time.
important part
At
of
that
the
time.
motion. he
Okay,
said.
so we can call this this meeting the Cass Road Jamboree.
Yes.
All right, so there's been moved and seconded, no more discussion? Okay.
I don't think we have to, we won't
Sonny, is there any-
schedule a meeting
Got
until
it.
it's available.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
No.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Carol just asked, and I said, we won't schedule the meeting until the necessary information's available.
All right, let's get this moving
Does
then.
this automatically assume then that we're having a discussion on the development agreement, which is what council has asked us specifically to do?
We've already voted on that, right?
No,
Oh.
that was
Vote right
taken
now.
out, that
That's
was
what we're
in my
voting on right
motion.
now.
Well, this is the second motion, second half of that motion, so we're moving
All
forward.
right,
with
so we've got a motion on the floor.
Yes.
Okay. Let's do a roll call on this motion.
Crawford,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Wheelock,
that. Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Cropa,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lathrop.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Wow. All right, now, are we done with special order of business?
Let's hope so.
Okay.
I'm glad we had it
We
first.
must be.
Okay, now we have.
We have the
items to
mass
move-
exodus.
Thank you guys so much. Really nice having you all here. Items removed from the consent calendar is B3, Commissioner Assignment Appointments. Who asked for that to be
I did.
removed? Who did?
I did.
Sonny
Okay,
did.
go ahead.
Well, let's allow for the exodus, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to
Yeah.
hear anyway.
Gosh, I thought all you guys loved us to just stay here for the whole meeting.
Look at that. We got the diehards there in the second row, Jay and Glenn.
Yeah,
They don't, they're like some of the rest of us, they don't have real lives.
nice talk.
And our poor
talk.
staff over there,
Yeah.
and Jean and John.
It's because they're
over there. Jean, who cried a tear when her item got moved below the Cass Road Bridge discussion.
Okay, good job. Now, what's next?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I had asked Commissioner Max Bauer, Chairman Max Bauer, to be appointed to the Emergency Management, the LEPC. This is the entity on behalf of Grand Traverse County that declares states of emergency due to man-made or natural disasters. It's also the organization that oversees the Emergency Operations Center in the event that Central Dispatch goes down. I have sat on that board previously. I spent 36 years as a firefighter EMT in this community. I have been FEMA certified in, I believe, if I remember right, is sections A and C that have to do with governmental certification. You recently got a email inviting you to, if the new commissioners wish to be certified. I also am certified in B, D, E, and F, having to do with first responders, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. I believe I bring qualifications to the Emergency Management Planning Committee that, exceed the other commissioners, and I would ask to be appointed to that committee.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Wheelock, this is the first I've heard of your request, and I've already committed to Commissioner Cropa that I would put her on LEPC, and since I've already given her that commitment, I'm going to leave it the way it is. If the two of you can work it out between yourselves, I'm more than happy to accommodate.
I have not heard of this at all.
I have not heard of it, so for tonight, I'd like to just leave it the way it is, and if you would like to get together with Commissioner Cropa and discuss it, and then get back to me, please let me know.
Okay, I'd like to bring up on this same issue, on page 23, it's got resolution, county board appointments and other boards, and it has, it's got a mistake here, I think. It's got Dr. Bob Johnson appointed to Beta and Dan Lathrop appointed, so I'm appointed to Beta.
You are.
Okay,
Yes,
so we need to change that.
It was fixed.
He did,
That we
it's
fixed
crossed
it.
out.
It's
on-
crossed out, it's fixed.
Okay, it's fixed?
What they laid on the table.
Okay, all right, so that's
caught
been fixed. Okay, good.
It was an error,
Yeah, okay.
clerical.
So are we done with B3?
And we need to vote on it.
We need to have a motion.
Two,
I would move to approve the 2015 committee assignments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Klaus?
Yes.
Wheelock?
No.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Cropa?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes. Okay, let's see. Now we're on,
Surveillance cameras.
pardon?
IT.
Did they vote on the consent calendar?
Yeah.
Did we?
It was Wheelock, seconded by Klaus, to approve the consent calendar minus B3.
Okay, good, thanks. You're scaring me, Bob. All right.
Where am I?
He's just trying to keep you in order.
All right, now we're on 9, department action items, IT.
Good evening. Don Sheehan, the Director of the IT Department, and that is not the DAM's implementation team. It's the information technology. So, recently we went out for bid looking at a camera surveillance system, and that was to go in the governmental center, really in the front area, also the lobby where the counters are at, and also outside of dispatch, who's here on a 24-hour a day, and they've been asking for this for I don't know how many years. Yeah, so we went out for bid and we did evaluations, had several demonstrations, and ended up recommending EPS as our provider. And we're looking at a system also that is expandable, and the pricing is higher than what it should be, obviously, for 6 cameras. But we're already looking at possibly the Civic Center, who has a camera system that's no longer supported, can actually attach to this system and use it also, the same software. Dispatch would even be able to access the cameras at the Civic Center if they wanted to at that point. There was also a discussion of the Hall of Justice. When that was first put in place, a lot of those are analog cameras, and they do say the quality is really poor on many of the cameras. They would also be able to add cameras and attach to the system. They would have to purchase cameras, obviously, to attach to the system, but the base system would support them. So I guess I'd leave it open there for discussion then.
Okay, comments?
In there, you said you've got funding identified with either facilities or the capital improvement fund, which?
I will
both,
let Dean address that.
Yes, it would be available in both funds. We would actually recommend that we purchase this out of the capital improvements fund, but the funding would be available in either fund, and that's even without having the preliminary close for the year where those funds are easily identifiable. But we would also look at applying for a MMRMA RAP grant to help pay for part of that cost. I have not done that, but that would be the plan that would pay for probably not all of that, but probably half.
I know they're doing those grants now with some of the cameras, so.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to request approval for the purchase of the camera surveillance system from EPS at the amount of $16,207.09, and ask staff to make immediate application to MMRMA for a RAP grant to offset some of that cost.
Is there a second? Support. Seconded by Dr. Johnson. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is a question for Jason. Jason, why do we need cameras outside your office? I mean, it's secure. You can't get in without punching a key code or...
A lot of people push the buzzer.
Jason Torrey, Deputy Director, Grand Traverse County 911. You are correct in that you can't get in there unless you have a key card.
Yeah.
All of our staff have key cards and some other employees of the county. But when we have visitors or people that we don't know, we can't see who they are. And technically, we're a secured facility.
Okay.
And to allow people to come in without that confirmation of who they are is a security issue for us.
Okay. Thank you.
There is still a number of people that ring the buzzer.
Any more discussion? Yes.
I have a question for Don. The last year and a half or so in county parks, we have been throwing around the idea of working on updating our cameras at the Civic Center. and I know Christine Erickson has been in discussions with you on this. Does this bid include some of the upgrades to the cameras that we were talking about at the Civic Center?
It does not actually, it would include storage or the software, but it would not include any cameras. And we'd still have to look at those and see whether existing cameras at the Civic Center are actually, up to date enough to be able to tie into the system.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Don. All right. Now we're planning and development. This is John.
Good evening, John Syke, Planning and Development Director for Grand Traverse County. This is just a minor item. It was indicated to us that there was not interest in having a county commissioner on the County Planning Commission. By state statute, you're not required, but it is in the county's Planning Commission ordinance, which was adopted a few years ago. So what we're doing is basically amending that ordinance to do two things. One is to provide that as an option to the board. So if at some point in the future you do want to appoint a commissioner, you would have that option, but it's not required. And the other item is that what we're requesting is currently the Planning Commission membership is 11 members, and we're requesting that that be reduced to 9. The state law provides options in terms of Planning Commission members being at either 5, 7, 9, or 11 for counties. So this is just a request to make those changes to the ordinance.
Okay. Any questions for John? Go ahead, Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize staff to make the necessary ordinance of adjustments to make the Planning Commission a 9-member board and list the county commissioner as a optional appointment.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Klaus.
Can a commissioner be appointed at any time on the board, or is it, which would then take it from a 9-member board to a 10-member board?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, we had that discussion at the County Planning Commission meeting yesterday afternoon. It seems to me that when you appoint people, and then you would want to reinsert a county commissioner, I would think that there would be probably only two situations that you would have, is one when there's a position that was finished up its term, and then there's a vacancy, or if somebody resigned. Unless you decided to somehow terminate somebody's appointment, you would have to create an empty seat. But the intent is to keep it at full membership of 9 members, so it's not like there would be an empty seat for that commissioner.
But there couldn't be a 10th seat without an amendment to the ordinance.
Right.
No, because that, first of all, 10 is not allowed by state law. It has to be 5, 7, 9, or 11. And then the way the ordinance is, what we're saying is to go from 11 back down to 9. But really, that's where the state law would trump the county's ordinance.
If a board member wanted to get on the board, they would have to add 2 more members.
2 more,
to the
including that
ordinance,
commissioner.
and they'd have to go through the ordinance
Yeah.
process again.
Or, as like I said, if there was an opportunity where there was an opening.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Was there an aye?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Kropa?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes?
Klaus?
No.
Lathrop?
Yes. Motion passes.
Do you want to serve?
Okay, the next thing is update on CDBG grant for Uptown Project. Who's
No, we
gonna
still
talk?
can.
We still can.
Gene.
Who's going to talk on that?
Gene.
Gene. There's a song about you, Gene.
She's young and alive.
That's right.
Because of her job. Until it's getting late in the
May have
evening.
been a couple hours ago.
Good evening. My name is Jean Dorenzi. I'm the Deputy Director of the Planning and Development Department. And the first item is just information only. We received 2 grants for 133 and 141 West State Street. And in November, we closed out the first grant, and we published a public notice for a public hearing that will be at your meeting next week to close out the second grant and close out the both grants, but the requirement is that the County Board of Commissioners hold a public hearing, recognize that the blight was removed and development can occur, and to seek public input into that process. So this is just information only, and to be able to update you and make you aware of that public hearing that will be for next week.
Thank you, Jean. Are you done?
The next,
Okay.
on that
Any
item, I am,
questions
not
for
unless
Jean on
there's
this?
questions on that.
All right, go ahead, Jean.
The next is your first quarterly report under the community development agreement that you have between the DDA, the city, and the City of Traverse City. As you, on pages 35 and 37 of the packet, it's really focusing on some of the activities that are being worked on. And in 2015, the focus will be on the economic strategy. Our community, as you know, does not have an economic strategy, and as your priority is businesses, I think it's important to really analyze where we're at, how we're going to retain the businesses that we have, and really strategize on how we can encourage more businesses to come into the community. So we will be working with our partners, being Northwestern Michigan College, Networks Northwest, and of course the private businesses that are in our community, and develop that strategy and bring that back to you. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have it in draft form. You'll be updated on quarterly basis, but always feel free to call our department and if you have any questions. The other component is the measurements that we'll be working on the first quarter of this year. And if you have any comments on where you want measurements to be, as you know, you can't know where you are successfully if you don't have measurements to go from. So I'll be working with Dave Benda, the county administrator, the city manager, and the DDA to put measurements in place to really know if this agreement is successful and if we're getting a good return on our dollar.
Any questions for Jean on that? Okay, thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Okay, what is next? Okay, administration. Well, we've done, want to talk about Cash Road Bridge again? All right, no.
Jean is super glad she doesn't build bridges.
Okay, Garfield Township, minutes?
No,
Keep
we're
going
all
down.
unfinished.
We're all done. So we're unfinished business, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Do
Unless
we have
David
any?
has something else he wants to add.
All right. New business, any new business? Yes.
I touched upon this at our last meeting. I don't see a need to rehash it again this evening. I think my next step is to meet with our administrator and talk to him about it. So if y'all are in agreement, we'll just leave that off of tonight's agenda and not discuss it. Isn't that nice?
Thank you.
We might get out of here by 9.
Okay. Now, this is a time for second public comment. Do we need to reread that? Okay.
Not
Is there
necessarily.
anyone who wants to give a public comment at this point?
It just came for the
They
show.
abandoned.
Okay, all right, we're done there. Commissioner Committee reports next. Yes.
I'm very sad to report that we have lost Commissioner Peter Doran from our Parks Board. He explained that his focus over the next few years is going to be on a trail authority and funding for trail maintenance. That is his passion. It is, you know, I don't know if very many people know this, but the reason we have the trail system that we do in Grand Traverse County is in large part due to Mr. Doran. He was an excellent board member, and I'm sorry to lose him, but I wanted to let everybody know that.
Okay. Any other Commissioner Committee reports? All right,
I
notices
have a
and...
quick thing.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I spent a shift with Grand Traverse 911, worked till 3 in the morning with them, and then the next day worked with Preston Taylor from the Sheriff's Department on his Garfield Township beat till 3 in the morning. If you have the opportunity to take up Captain Chris Clark on his offer to let commissioners ride along, it was great. And the best part of working back-to-back for me was I could see full circle from when the call came in on 911 all the way till the next night where Preston and I were walking up to grab the lien information and the warrant information at 911, and I got to see it full circle. And I can't say enough for what's going on in our emergency services here at the county. It was a really great experience. And I also spent a day with Greg Bird at the Emergency Operations Center and saw how that tied in with it. And I know we each are assigned to different departments, and if you can spend time with your departments, I can't tell you how excited the staff was just to have a commissioner take the time to work a shift and talk to them about things. So
Did they let you wear a badge?
I did not have a gun or a badge. I did get to eat sandwiches with them and that sort of thing. But no, it was eye-opening. I learned so much about what our emergency services do in this county. And it was truly eye-opening, and I know because of it, I will make a lot better decisions sitting on those committees representing this board. So
That's great.
It's a good deal.
Okay, good job. Do we have any closed session, Mr. Enda?
No, we do not.
Notices and announcements.
Announcements? Notices and
Notices
announcements?
and announcements. How are we coming on our CPO meeting?
We're getting there. We've gotten all our numbers together now. We're just redrafting the kind of a sample contract and making the appointments probably before the end of the week.
Before the end of the week.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just a quick thing. I read in the ticker yesterday that the city, in their efforts to fill the Carnegie Building and pay their rent, are looking at moving the County Commission on Aging to the Carnegie Building.
Which is news to the Commission on
I know it
Aging.
was. I know that this is news to our administrator as well. Number one, I wanted to say before we pay the city's rent, I would love to see us use the county resources. Number two, in my fabulous time at Grand Traverse 911, at about 2 in the morning, I went to the basement to get a Diet Pepsi, and it's empty, right? And I had time to walk around the entire basement. What opportunity we have to house something like Commission on Aging. The county prosecutors, move them out of that house. Bob and them would probably love to be out of the house.
We've posed that question to.
Or all of these things.
We've had that discussion multitudes of times.
I would like to add to the agenda next week, just a quick update from our administrator. First of all, on if he had heard anything on Commission on Aging and the city vacating the property on Front Street and their intent to sell, which was mentioned briefly in that. And if they are intending to sell, what county options would be open for us to move the Commission on Aging? That would be the first. And the second would be just maybe some ideas or brainstorming what I think is a real loss of space. Our whole basement of the building is empty here and could be utilized better by staff that's probably all crammed in. It also, I will note, has a tunnel that leads to the jail, so it seems like it would be handy for people like the prosecutors to utilize that. I understand it's probably been done a million times, Sonny. I'm sure you've had the discussion a million times, but there's new ideas and new voices. And we also are looking at cost savings and efficiency and moving a department to this building and having access to the county clerk and the register of deeds and all the other things that we have here may be really useful and efficient for one of our departments. So I would love to at least have a discussion about that, even if somebody reaches out to our prosecutor. That opens up that house for potential revenue for leasing that out for something. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities to save money at the county and do things better without cutting a dime. So that's an option.
Okay, any other comments? We can have a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second? Okay, we're adjourned.